Thanks for everybody coming back in. I know it must have been tempting to stay out in the sunshine. It's quite nice out there. My name is Jeff Senne. I'm with PwC, and I will moderate this session and actually lead one of the fireside chats. Just a raise of hands, how many people have cried over the last day and a half, or day together? How many people have been kind of inspired beyond words? How many people wanted to crawl under their seat because they saw something a 17-year-old was doing that they haven't achieved and they're 45? This is my 7th Social Innovation Summit, and I have to say that happens every time. And it actually had me quite nervous coming up here today because of that kind of humbling experience that this day and a half kind of causes. And it got me thinking about the topic that we will deal with for, I guess, the next hour and 15 minutes or so, and it's challenge. And I thought about, is there a secret sauce? Is there a recipe that comes out of the Social Innovation Summit? Like, what can you take away from this? What have I learned over 7 of these? And I think it's some mix, and I tried to put numbers to this, you know, because I am from PwC. And I wasn't able to, but I think it's some mix of purpose and vision, activation of that purpose and vision, and then there's some alchemy in this. And I think it's really an interesting journey that we go on twice a year in this summit. And I think, let me unwrap that a little bit. Purpose, I think, is the reason that we seek to do whatever we do, whether that's organizationally or individually. And this is, you know, what we want, what challenge we want to tackle. And then the vision is what's the world going to look like if we fulfill our purpose, individually or, again, collectively. And I think one of the really interesting things is that what you don't hear is people getting up here and saying, you know, I want to be a millionaire. And there may be people who, as a result of what they do, may become millionaires, but it's not the stated aim, which I think is really interesting. This is somehow bigger than themselves, and therefore it makes them their biggest selves. And I think that's really interesting. This idea of activation is this idea that somehow the unique individuals and or people within the organization come together with this mix of skills and vision and purpose, and somehow they're able to do something wonderful and something very different. And I'm remembering Steve Jobs, I guess because we're in Silicon Valley. And you know, most of you will have seen the Stanford commencement address that he did years ago. And if you haven't, you should Google it. It's really interesting. But he talks about how when he was in college, and he actually dropped out and audited a course on calligraphy, if I remember. Let me tell you, a career applicable study, right? Calligraphy, like who's going to use that? And he ended up using it within the Macintosh and created, these wonderful fonts that then found their way into computers around the world. And I think that's the kind of idea of activation where you're connecting these dots that would not otherwise be connected. And last, there's this alchemy part. And this is that part I'm pretty convinced is the 1%. Let's say, purpose is X% and activation is Y. This 1% at the end that is so unique and so individual to the group of people and the challenge you're seeking to tackle. And that, we learned some of these. One today, happiness as an agent of alchemy. Yesterday, I thought that really interesting, this idea of finding the comma after the no. That is a form of alchemy. That is a form of changing your perspective and your relationship with the purpose and the challenge you're seeking to tackle. So for the next hour and 15 minutes, we're going to have an educator, 2 CEOs, a corporate responsibility executive, a high school student, and a fencing master. This is an eclectic mix. The interesting thing I think that holds them all together is this idea of challenge. And they are all striving for greater performance. They're challenging the status quo. They're challenging conventional thinking around whatever space and whatever challenge they're working on. And I think that is what makes this group unique, and kind of that's the thread that we want to try to pull through the next hour together.